Hey everybody, hope you're all having a great day so far today. Mine's been pretty good. My dog is doing way better, so that really takes a lot of stress off me. Um, but yeah, today I'm a bit late just because I had some things to do tonight, so probably won't be able to do a full 2 hour stream, but let's try and get as much work as done as I can. Yeah, so throughout the day I've kind of put in a bunch of goals that I'm going to try to do in this animation system, just so I can try to remember. Not in any particular order. Right now we are working on just setting a boolean in the animation system. And I think it doesn't work right now. So if we open the game up, right now the new turn script was supposed to set the trigger and these animators to move to the rotate state. And if we look in this object, which is just a copy in the animator, we can see that if we turn on rotate, it does move up here, so that is working right. So obviously the problem for those objects is that the flag is not even being set correctly. So I think how I'm going to try to figure out this bug is just putting a whole bunch of debug logs until we can see where the message is being lost. So trying to set rotate boolean on monster. And that's good there. Then there it goes to the animations object, and all that does is call this function, which is set here. So let's see, debug and debug log format received set boolean, and then we'll just print out the values: target, parameter name, value. Okay, and now it's supposed to go up here to the manager. Actually, I think I'll copy this as a helpful starting point. And then the set animator boolean, and this has the model ID, parameter, and the value. And so next step, actually copy this, go here, and then finally it's whatever. Yeah, this component is actually not needed because there's not going to be another message that's going to send this. Yeah, so let's, while I'm here, I'll go ahead and fix this. It can be tagless. And then so here where it subscribes to the message, should print the last here. So we received set param command, and then I think the best thing maybe would just be to have a toString object here, or toString method here. Format, oh, got the dot. type, name, value, and then the value will depend on what the type is. Or I guess I can just go ahead and toString it. Value string. So we switch the parameter type. And trigger. Actually, if it was a type, if it was a trigger type, it wouldn't even have a value. Okay, so yeah, Boolean value string equals Boolean value toString integer value toString and float. And then anything else we'll just done. Oops. Spell it correctly though. And so here we just pass the model ID, parameter type, name, and then the value string. Okay, so yeah, now I don't have to have any more than that. And then the last debug I want is that if we actually set the Boolean here, so let's see, set Boolean so this will be the command name, command value, and then I just want to have the animator name. Okay, so let's see which of those debug lines actually get printed out. Loggers assigned but not used. Yeah, those will be filled soon enough. Okay, so we actually got an error. Attempt to call a user data value. At line 40. Okay, that's a bit strange. Okay, I guess as in Lua, or at least in Moon Sharp, it won't automatically call the toString method on the monster. I guess I forgot that. Okay, so okay, yeah, parameter does not exist. Interesting. So maybe that was there the whole time, but I just didn't notice it. Let's see. So trying to set rotate on egg dino. Received set boolean user data rotate true. Set animal boolean 0 rotate true. Rotate true. Now it's saying Okay, so the name is not getting passed for some reason. Yeah, because it's saying the name is empty when it gets to this part. Okay, well, that means that I probably just forget to set the name when I create the animation command, which I do. Okay, so that was kind of silly of me. And if important. Okay, so let's reload and try this again. Turn off collapse, that might a little confused. Okay, so now it actually did work, so that was the whole problem. See if the other one is also in this animation state. Oh, well right now they're on top of each other because the code that used to move monsters doesn't work anymore. Okay, well that's good to see. Let's... I don't have timers right now, so I'm gonna... This will be a little, what's the word? Hard on the system, I guess, but I'm just going to wait 100 frames. Is that the right... I forget if that's the right function. Okay, yeah, it is wait 1 frame. And then afterwards, we'll just set the boolean false. So the animation should play for 100 frames and then get turned off. And it did. Okay, great. So, okay, so I want to test setting integer and float parameters. I guess a trigger. I don't really know how useful a trigger will be, but I'll leave it just in case. Or I'll go ahead and support it. Okay, so I guess the question is, in the animations, do I want to have like a separate function for each of these? And then, because they're all kind of going to be handled the same, but I guess this code wouldn't know that. Okay, so this will be int set sure set float, and then set trigger. I'll go ahead and code these three at the same time, because they're all similar, and then we'll need to put together some way to test them. I think I put it down here. But Oh yeah, this. I think I might go ahead and deal with this soon. I would like it to throw a Lua error. I think that'll just be easiest for mod authors. Right. Where was I? In here. So this should be that integer. Oh, it's lowercase. That's a nice full integer. That float. That trigger. Okay, so now I have this Lua set boolean. I guess I should be good and have a different object for each. They're gonna have some code in common. Especially like this part that tries to get a specific monster, but... And then the parameter name. You know what, I think they're also similar. I think I will just combine them. So let's just... Oh, I wanted to rename that Animator parameter. And I'm going to need to change the name of the file. Alright. And... alright, has to reload that. We have set boolean. I guess I still should pull out some of these objects, or some of these functions. Get model ID. This might even need to be pulled out into the animation manager or something else entirely, because later on, I think other scripts like to move the models will need it, but for now all we have to do is check. Oh. Yeah, here's what I was looking for. Guess I'll have a error name. Okay, and then we would just return the monster data index. Then I guess we need to validate the parameter name. So private void check param name. And so right now we just check if it's null or empty. But later on we'll probably also check if the parameter name actually exists. Oh. Oh, and then I also need the error name here. Okay, so that was simple. Now I can just make the other functions. So we got set boolean, set float, or actually integer, the one I did first, other side. Don't really need these debugs, so I'll just comment them out for now. And I'll just go ahead and create a function in the animation manager. Okay, so this should be set float. Well, I mean, they're all pretty much identical except for the type here. So theoretically, I could make this like a generic function, but I think down the line, there might be some different validation for each one, so I'm not going to try and optimize it too much at this point. And here, set trigger. This one just has no value, obviously, so we don't have to pass anything there. Alright, and I need to rename the errors. Okay, so now that I have to access the Lua object registry a few times, I'll just cache the value here. Oh, I don't actually want Lua object registry, I want animations object. Alright, so set integer, set float, and set trigger. Alright, I think we're all good in this object, so now we'll move on to the animation manager. These will probably all be internal, actually. Oh, well, actually, no, I want them to be public because some other class might want to signal an animation even if it's not from Lua. I could see that happening. Again, I don't think I need these anymore. So basically, again, the animation manager is basically just what's the word, like a conductor or something that passes functions through to other objects depending on if it's in a logging state or not. Do you want the name like that? And the commander part is pretty simple. All we do is just send this message. So here that should change an int, and we pass the int value, float value, and trigger and no value. And I think that's actually all I have to do because the animation parameter setter already has everything set up. I guess I'll leave this for now. Okay, so what should happen, I'm just going to try to send a function to each of these, and then Unity will print out this when it receives a command, and then I know that the code's gone through correctly. And when it gets here, Unity should throw an error that these values don't exist, and that way we'll know that it should work if they did exist. So monster. Let's call it int. Float. Set. Trigger. Alright, so now let's try to load up the game. And again, we should get a bunch of debugs that those commands have been sent out, and then Unity will say, oh, but this animation parameter doesn't exist. Back up. Oh, there's gonna be 100 asynchronous requests. Okay, so is when it starts. So it receives the set animation boolean. Okay, right there. And yeah, so now here it actually receives the boolean rotate true, and then it receives int, and it says the parameter int doesn't exist, which we expected. Type float, parameter float does not exist, and parameter trigger does not exist, so everything goes through fine. Now, when something like this happens, I kind of want it to throw an error, but I'm curious what would happen if rotate does exist, but it's a different type. See what error Unity would get for that. Oh yeah, I should turn off. Okay, so yeah, it says parameter type rotate does not match. Okay, well that makes sense. So either of those happen, I want to send a error out, but I don't know if I can get that information out of Unity. But at least I can mark these off. Alright, let's... The only class that actually has access to the animator is here. So I guess this class, I guess it would just throw out a message whenever a certain parameter doesn't exist. Could have the handle command also be a query instead of a message, so that way it could actually return true or false. Or I could just throw an error and then the other thing could catch it. It's basically the same. Although exception handling is much slower. Query's probably better because then we'd still be like within the scope of the Lua function, so we could throw a script execution error. Yeah, I think I will do that. I was just trying to think because like the only problem with queries is that they always have to happen right away, but the thing is that Unity does tell us about these errors right away, even if they're not an actual error. I wish it would just throw an error. That would be much simpler for me to deal with. Okay, so let's look in the animator and see, does it have like a list of parameters? Okay, it does. Read-only access to the animation parameters. And then what objects? So default, get type, that's not useful. It has a name. Okay, it does have a type. Okay, so now we can find out both problems. Okay, so let's think about how with the code. Maybe, I think the best way to do it would be this code does not actually throw any errors. It just will silently fail like Unity does already. But I should have another function here, probably the same object, and then it would like tell us about any errors that could happen if we try to set this parameter. Okay, so the reason I'm pausing now is the way I've set up my code. Trying to be good, but it's like making things a little difficult for me. Because I really like to just have like a private bool parameter does parameter exist, and then we would just go ahead and pass this command to it. The problem is that I'd really want to know that here in this class, and in this class it doesn't deal with the parameter command objects, that just sends stuff to the manager. And I really wanted the commander to kind of be the interface between the animation system and the outside world. I guess I still could. Let's see, if this animation, or if this manager maybe returned a boolean. Let's just do boolean for now. So if this returned something like if it's succeeded or failed. Okay, let's add another enumeration here. Error. Name doesn't. Oh, we can't have a. Let's do it this way. Name non-existent, and then I'll have type mismatch. Then the animation manager. The animation manager could actually throw the errors out, or the commander could. Although the commander doesn't know anything about the Lua system, so I don't really want it to deal with the script errors. Okay, something else I just thought about is that when we're like on the action script, I'm just trying to think, would there be any chance that, I don't think this would ever happen, but like if we ever allowed the mods to like change the animator that's attached to a creature, because that would make the parameters change. But I guess if we did that, then things would get way more complicated. Probably what we do if that happened, like if they ever tried to change the animator, then we would just disable this error checking. And then that weird things would happen. So yeah, I won't worry about that. Yeah, I'm thinking too far ahead. So instead of a boolean, let's return the animation parameter error. And that would come from here. Oh, but the problem about that is that we should know this error even if we're in the logging state. Well, I guess it's okay. Let's maybe check it this way. Maybe no matter what, we would want to check for errors with the commander. I don't know, is the commander just a useless class? I kind of like the idea of keeping all these, because sooner or later we'll probably have a lot of message claims, and I think it'd be nice to keep this code out of the animation manager, but it's making me have to write a whole lot of functions, and these could all be easier if I just pass the animation param command through to everything. Maybe that's just what I should do. And yeah, I think I will, because the reason I haven't so far is because maybe this object has data that's different for the outside world than the animation system. But if there is, I could always just have the commander convert this to something else at the end, although I guess I'd have the same problem with what I'm trying to do right now. But I think I'm trying to keep all this stuff abstract, as I have been doing, while nice in theory is just making all this code bloated. Okay, so let me rewrite some of this. So instead of this being a plain boolean, this will just be a parameter, and it will be past the animation param command. And again, we'll just pass the command itself, which will be kind of strange because all it's going to do is the commander will just call that message, but that's okay. before that, we'll want to check for errors. So if, well, no, I don't really want the animation manager to throw script errors. Well, I guess it wouldn't. It's just if there was an error, it would return it. So this won't return anything, actually. If we get down here, then we would return none. Check. Animator. Param error. And then we'll just send the command. And if error is none, then we'd run this code. Then at the end, we just return the error value. And the reason this is kind of complicated is because, like, we can't really, in here, this has no knowledge of if the parameter exists or not. I guess that is kind of an option, is it could keep a list of everything, but that's a lot of data to keep track of when Lua already provides it. Or not Lua, Unity. So I think I'll keep it this way. Then we'll just have another function here, private void check param error, and this will just be the animator param. What do I call it? And then from here we'll just do a switch. Oh yeah, I guess I need to pass an error name again. And I should also pass the param name. Or I should just pass the command itself. Okay, so this would be parameter does not exist on we want to get the model name actually. So again, not the error name, this should just be the model name. And name and model name. Script. Runtime exception. Parameter row on is not type. And otherwise there's nothing happens, so error. I guess we'll need the command actually. So yeah, I'll just take this code out of here because yeah, not going to be needed anymore. yeah, now I just passed the command, don't I? So this code will be kind of in common. So yeah, maybe I could just send the command and the model name. And the model name. Forget. Maybe I should get the model name from this get model ID. Little monster dot string. Alright. Okay, so yeah, all these are... I'm just going to comment them out for now, and I'll need to fix it later on, but I want to make sure I get Boolean working again. Now we go back to the commander, and I can delete all of this stuff. And dot, or not command set parameter, send, all that does there. Yeah, no error, actually. And I think I accidentally deleted the other error, or the error function. Oh, I actually inserted it in the wrong place. The commander. Okay, so I guess there'll be another message for this, and actually I'll make it a query. So the return type is the information param error. Argument type is the param command. Check param error. Oh, right, it's not query, it's a query handle. There we go. Pretty simple, and then I just need to get this object out of the components. Query. And I think I can just pass these types because nothing else is going to have them in common. And the last thing I need to do is here in the parameter setter is actually implement this object. First I'll go ahead and claim the query. Does parameter exist? And this would actually be a little different, but what's in the line? Oh right, it's not a bool anymore. This should be check parameter error. Okay, so we can get the animator again, and I guess I need to make this, yeah, extract it in common. So get animator. Okay, so now we can loop through the parameters and see if one with the same name exists, and then if it does, then we check the error, and if one doesn't exist, or if one does, then we check the type. If one doesn't exist, then we throw an error. Cool. Any found false. Let's not do it that way. For each param and animator parameters, if parameter name equals command name. So now we need to check if the types are the same. Same type, which type okay, so yeah, Unity already has this type enumeration, but I'd like to keep my game logic stuff as separate from Unity as possible, so I will continue that. Last one, trigger. Okay, so if same type is false, then we would return type mismatch. I guess here also, well, if we get this far, then I need to say any found equals true, and then we break out of the loop. So if any found, return we'll probably make this a little bit cleaner actually. What is this type? Animator controller parameter. Set to null. And what I'll do is, instead of keeping this inside the loop, little what's the word? A little thing, I think. And then I don't need to have this any found either. So if the parameter is null, then we would turn non-existent. Yeah, the same type as false. I guess I can do this a little bit nicer as well. So if same type is true, then we'll return none. Otherwise, we return type mismatch. Okay, so yeah, I like that better. So that's good. Animation manager all set up. I can delete functions. Okay, so I guess let's go ahead and test this out. I'll comment. Oh, I can just delete it. And then here, yeah, we'll set rotate to false, but then I'll also just call that, and it should throw an error. Yeah, and that will actually can't test both of them at the same time because this will throw an error and then exit us from code. So I'll test this first and then I'll test a type mismatch. Oh, I actually can't do type mismatch yet because the Lua functions for the other types aren't implemented correctly yet. Not that that will be hard to do. Oh yeah. Okay, well I got an error, that's what I need. Parameter dynamy does not exist on egg dino. Perfect. Also, just for my sanity, I think I'll get rid of this for now. Okay, so yeah, that's good. Let's implement the other types real quick, and then I'll probably have to call the stream just because it's already pretty late here. So really all I need to do is just copy this code down here. Bit of a shame because now I'm gonna have to type all these bug names and everything. You know what? Before I go through all this trouble, bug name equals set in. Now the only thing I'll need to change is the argument type. Yeah, so this should now be an int value and integer. Just int. Float. No value and trigger. Oh yeah, and then this should change to set trigger, set float, set integer. Now if I change this to set integer, it will throw a type mismatch. Okay, so yeah, now it says, oh, cannot convert a boolean to a controller type. Oh, yeah, that's a one. Parameter rotate on egg dino is not an int type. Yep, that's exactly right. So I think we're all good. I will, for strings I like to wrap these in quotation marks just in case it's actually an empty string that gets passed through, although I don't think that could happen, but I think we actually check that here. I also didn't update the error name here. Enter name then must be non-empty. Okay. So So I think everything is set up. Yeah, we gotta work on the logger. I think I'll actually do that before I implement movement. Oh, I don't know. Because really all the logger does is just store these commands and things somewhere. And then at some other point in time, those commands will be refed into the animation manager, which will basically just call this commander again. I'm thinking about that. Maybe I should maybe have a version of this set animation parameter that doesn't have error checking in it, and that just calls the commander directly. Because like we won't need to do error checking through the parameter after the values have been logged, and also if the game system itself wants to call and set these parameters, we won't need that error checking. Okay, so I'm gonna need to... So I really just need a version of this set animator param that just directly calls the commander. Or do I? Because we just have some script here that's like public. Oh no, there'd probably be some other class that would like decode the stored values from the logger, and then that would call the correct functions here. I guess the real question is, do I just want to make this commander public so that anybody can access it? No, because I want the outside world to come through this class. At the same time, when it comes from Lua, it should be logged, or I mean, because I want to control whether it's logged or not. So I guess let's see. What would the other version? Like, I just need a way to. Maybe I don't need to have two different versions of the functions. I just need to have another class layer. And then these Lua parameters don't actually have the animator and the animation manager. They just talk to something else. And then that something else either calls the logger or the commander. That might be the way to go. What do I want to call it? Maybe in that case, the commander doesn't actually need... maybe... Okay, yeah, maybe this is how I'll do it. The animation manager will be the class that the Lua scripts call, but then the commander is what anybody calls if they want to just send these commands directly. Yeah, that makes the most sense. So maybe I should just rename the animation manager. Be like, this is like the master for Lua functions. Lua, or I guess I'll call it the script manager, so the animation manager. I guess it doesn't really, yeah, the animation manager is kind of redundant because it's already in the animations namespace, so. In that case, yeah, the logger does not need to know about it. And so then the commander, do I want to rename it to be, no, this is fine. But then the commander doesn't need to know about us either. I guess the question now is what should I call that actually creates these objects? Well, I think I'll keep it like this actually. I think this will be fine, because now that I think about it, if some other class wants to just set an animation, they don't actually have to come through the animation system, they could just call this command themselves. Yeah, so that's fine. But I think I'll keep this a script manager. I should, they don't do this, but this system is kind of complicated, so acts as the layer, thinking scripts the rest of the game, either sends script commands directly to Animator handlers or stores them until it can be executed. I think that's fine. Everything else is kind of obvious. So this just sends the messages out. The logger will store them. Then we have these classes that handle one or two Lua functions. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with it, and I feel like it's makes sense now. So really, nothing will need to ever actually interface with the script manager. Yeah, it should be fine. Okay, so now that I changed all that, let's make sure there's no errors in Unity. And yeah, I think I'll need to wrap up the stream. It's pretty late here. Yeah, sorry it was a bit of a short stream, but just had some things I had to take care of tonight. But I should be back Monday for sure, at the latest, and we'll continue on this. See what will be our next project. Actually took care of that. Yeah, so I guess I'll do movement. We should probably do well, no, actually I do want to do linear movement first because I don't want the two monsters to stand on top of each other. Yeah, so we'll make the object that takes care of animation movement, or at least positioning. And yeah, we've got those three and these movement timer types. I'm not really sure about this because the problem that if we try to animate by a specific animation, I just have a feeling that there could be problems in Unity because of the way the state machines kind of have a mind of their own. Because it's hard to tell when an animation actually ends. But there are ways that you can send a signal from the animation to the rest of the game. So maybe we'll do that. Probably till Animation signal. Yeah, that might be a good idea, actually. These, yeah, the timer, sync, and signal might actually be something more general in the animation system, because you can see that being used for a lot of things. Same thing, we can have animation, signal, wait, handle. And this is like for the coroutine yield and the freeze actions. Probably during actions will be like one of the last things we do, because I want to try and get the system working outside of actions first, because then we know that if there's any bugs that have to do with the logging system. So yeah, we'll probably be working on this for the best part of next week, and then we'll move on, I think, to some shaders. Take on, yeah, some of this post-processing stuff maybe. And eventually we'll get back to terrain. I do kind of want to keep flipping back and forth between like programming intensive and graphics type stuff, because the programming is I need to finish it so the game actually gets more playable, but it's so nice to have the game looking sort of nice, so I don't want it to get too far behind again. And Egg Dino someday is going to need a friend. But anyway, thanks everybody for coming by. I hope you are having a great night. If you missed any of the stream and you'd like to catch up, I do have a YouTube channel. I'll upload everything, so feel free to check that out. If you want to be notified when I go live on Monday at the latest at 8:30 Eastern. I have a Twitter account that I tweet there when I go live, and also you can follow me here on Twitch. Finally, I have a Discord channel if you'd like to chat with me throughout the day. It is growing, but it's still pretty small, so we'd love to have you there. You can get links to any of those places by typing !YouTube, Twitter, or Discord in chat, or looking in my video or channel description. So yeah, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday. Okay, bye-bye.